Hi and a very warm welcome at our webinar. We want to work with you today and make you create like an artist, solve problems like an engineer, and act like an entrepreneur. We are talking to you from the university in Graz. This is located in the south of Austria, but let's clarify first, who are we?
My name is Susanne Kamska and I am University Assistant at the Department of Business Education and Development. My work fields are higher education and digital transformation and of course entrepreneurship education.
And my name is Nina Nike-Velanda. I work as an external lecturer here at the university. I am part of the SPINTeams project and will be an entrepreneurial coach for you, and I'm working in my own business as a trainer and coach in the field of communication within business. So as you are, I was in the same stage. I wanted to found my own business many years ago, and I know exactly how it feels to be on the one hand full of endorphins and full of enthusiasm, having a good idea, and on the other hand maybe having some doubts, be afraid of failure, be afraid of taking too much risk. It's a lot of things that might go on in our head before we can really start up to be an entrepreneur. And that's exactly why we want to talk to you today in that webinar, because we want to convince you that it's worth to take the challenge and to become an entrepreneur. And we will show you within that webinar what it needs to think like an entrepreneur. So we have put up those 4 chapters for you. And since we all are sitting in different places right now and you're watching our webinar on YouTube from wherever in the world, we also wanted to have a look on the international entrepreneurship map. And we found really good data for entrepreneurial behavior in Europe and focused on those countries that are also part of this European Union project. After that, we want to go deeper into the field of entrepreneurship. We want to clarify, do we need entrepreneurs? And if we need them, what defines entrepreneurship? And what are the first 3 steps you need to take next? By motivating you, it's also important to keep in focus, are we ready to start our own business, or are we ready to come up with entrepreneurial ideas? What do we have to think about? Self-reflection is an important point, and not to be afraid of failure. It's exactly the other way around. You will be successful through past failure. And there we have some interesting famous and not famous at all, but everyday persons examples for you that we want to show you. And in the end, we think it's really handy for you to have a concept like a checklist you can go through when you want to start up that entrepreneurial process that we will talk about. And this is a model called EntreComp. And it is designed like a flower. That's also why we chose that icon here. And we will go through that concept with you, get your mindset right to be an entrepreneur. We will show you how you can check your resources before, in the end, we will get started all together with some examples. So let's have a look on this international entrepreneurship and why you should get inspired and start right away. It doesn't matter where you are, if you have an idea sitting home with your dog on the sofa, or if you have get inspired or have inspiration in a conversation with a friend in the university cafeteria or at the restaurant, or maybe you're sitting at the job and you observe that things are not going in the best way they could. Some processes, some services, they could be improved. Also, this is entrepreneurship, as long as you go beyond the inspiration and the idea and really start implementing what you have thought about. So it is not dependent where we have ideas and get inspired, but what influences we found out in the researches we looked at, what influences us is obviously our cultural background, where we come from, and how we are raised, probably also, and what is the mindset maybe also in the society we are living in. So let's have a look at that. How is that within Europe?
Today we want to present you one dataset of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, in short GEM data. It's an association which collects data to the topic of entrepreneurship every year since 1999. And there are a lot of experts which analyze this data and give some rates, some numbers, some quotes to about your countries, where are you from or where are you studying, to the topic of entrepreneurship. And today we present you the current data of 2019 and 20. So maybe you're wondering about 2019 and 20. Yes, we choose this data set because we think that this data is really significant, because this was a, let's say, normal year. 2020, you know, there was the COVID-19 pandemic around the world, and you can imagine that the numbers came down and there are really less numbers. So we thought that this is not good. This is not a good example for this data set. But let's have a look at our countries and the different rates there. We chose our study countries, so we chose Spain, we chose the data from Italy, from Austria, from Latvia, from Lithuania and Croatia. And how high is the entrepreneurial intention rate in your study country? The entrepreneurial intention rate of the GEM dataset describes the persons who are intending to found a company within the next 3 years. So if you're thinking about set up or founding an enterprise or get started with a startup, you're shown up in this data. What is really interesting about this data is that there are huge differences between the countries. At Latvia, there is a percentage of 23.2, whereas in Italy, there is only a percentage of 5.4%. That means that in Italy, a lot of Italian people don't want to found within the next 3 years. But there are a lot of, let's say, entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs in the Latvian sector. So maybe you are an Italian colleague of us and you have a great idea. Don't be shy. Get in the process of starting up, because Italy needs this entrepreneurial mindset and these entrepreneurs there.
They need some more push.
Yeah. The next rate is the total early stage entrepreneurial activity rate, which describes such people who are a nascent entrepreneur or owner manager of a new business. So they are now at the process at the entrepreneurial process, or they have just started. The map shows that there is also a huge difference between the countries, and there is also the huge difference between Latvia and Italy. In Latvia there is 15.4%, whereas in Italy it's only a rate of 2.8%. So there are not so many entrepreneurs now, or there are not so many entrepreneurs which are really in the entrepreneurial process to get a startup and to found an enterprise. But what could be the reason why are in Italy so many people they don't want to found an enterprise? Maybe they have the fear of failure, or maybe they don't want to take so high risk. To this data, there is also one rate in the GEM dataset, the fear of failure rate. The fear of failure rate describes these persons who indicate that fear of failure would prevent them from setting up a business.
And maybe you might have thought now that in Latvia this is really low, right? Because they found so much and they want to found 25% close to of that age group want to found a business in the next 3 years. But look at that, it's completely different.
It's up to 50% fear of failure rate in Latvia. So they all have fear. Let's say fear of failure is normal.
It's
natural.
human.
It's human. Yeah. But they try it out. They go this step further and they go to build a startup. Whereas in Italy, you can see there is 27.6%. So they are a little bit more risk averse and they don't have such a high fear of failure rate, but they don't want to get up to build a startup and to go through this entrepreneurial process. Mm-hmm. The point here is also that you may think that you need one brand new idea or a unique idea. No. Only 1/3 of the entrepreneurs come up with a brand new idea, come up with an innovation that no other enterprise, no other company offers. Because the innovation rate describes the percentage of those who involved in the TEA, so in the total entrepreneurial area, who indicate that their service or product is new to some customers and no business offers the same. And this number is nearly 30% in all countries. So you see that not all entrepreneurs have this one innovative idea. It's all about thinking something new or further develop a product, a process, or a service, for example.
But how can we do that? And first of all, do we need that overall? And the clear definition or the clear answer on that point is yes, we need entrepreneurs. Because otherwise we all stay like this. We all stay within our box. And innovation and transformation and development cannot take place if we all think the same old ways as we do since years and decades. So thinking out of the box is basis of getting creative and getting an entrepreneurial mindset. So maybe you think now, great Nina, another time that someone tells me think out of the box, but no one ever tells me what is the box. So the box that you should think out of is the same old thinking. It's thoughts and ideas you can easily connect with each other. It's like transportation, and you might think about the car, or you might think about the train or public transportation. But then it was people that thought about transportation, and then it came up the idea of transporting goods by a drone and let them be flown home to you from the grocery store or whatever. So that's what we are thinking about here. So we want to get creative by looking at other boxes, looking at other developments, features, technologies that are already there that can inspire us to improve the procedures, products, services in a certain field we are interested in. So maybe the box you want to look in for opportunity is globalization. How does globalization empower the field you want to work in? Or maybe it's the other way around. Since the 2020s, when the pandemic started, we got constantly more problems with the delivery of goods, with the supply chains from Eastern countries or from Asia to Europe, for example, or to the States. So maybe we have to look in the other way and go maybe more in the way of centralizing supply chain again and the delivery of goods. Maybe that inspires you. For a lot of people, it's also automation and robots that give us ideas and make us creative. And you know, this is going on since decades. Think about Back to the Future, the famous Hollywood movie. I mean, we tried in that movie to imagine everything that could be possible, a time machine and flying cars and whatever. So of course, we have to go a bit further and beyond reality to imagine what is possible, because otherwise we will always stay with the same products or developments we already have. Hand in hand with that goes artificial intelligence and AI and machine learning. Those are all fields that I should say will give so much opportunity in the next years and are already on the way to be explored more and more in different business areas. And if you have glasses that you can put on and you can imagine a virtual reality, see it, be part of a virtual reality. Doesn't matter if you're walking through a power plant or if walking through your house that you should build because the architecture offers you that feature, or maybe if we should use it in our teaching at university or research factors. So we have to see what is available, what can us help develop further. So another field is weightless trading, or of course also our demography. So just the status of how do we live that determines and changes and therefore has an influence on products, services and procedures that we are living in our daily life. So we don't have to go that far in the sense of we can look in our daily life. What is something that maybe annoys you or costs you a lot of time or stresses you? How could you make that more comfortable, time-saving, cheaper, whatever? And how can you use other technologies that are already there, maybe for your purpose? So an entrepreneurial mindset means that we get creative, that we are thinking things in a new way. And that's also what the word itself wants to explain, because it comes from the, as you can guess, French word
entreprendre.
Thank you, Susie, because my French is not worth to share here in the webinar, but I can explain you what it means. It wants to tell us that we should initiate something, begin, start, come into the making, so do something and not just sit and think. And that's an important part. Entrepreneurship means doing something. And that was not just invented now. It's something that's going on since a long time.
And one important guy who should come up in your mind is Josef Alois Schumpeter. Not only because he's of our hometown Graz here in Austria, but he was also contributed to the development of the economic, to the development of the entrepreneurial thinking and entrepreneurship. Because he came up with the theory of economic development. That means there is something like a stationary state if there is no innovation, if there is nobody who thinks something in a new way. And he said that's the reason why we need entrepreneurs. We need entrepreneurs to come up with new ideas, to get inspired and to implement these ideas and to do something new, or to set up a new product or service and so on. And so he, in his opinion, the hero of his story is the entrepreneur.
And there are several examples for this, that it's not always just the development of something new, but sometimes it needs more of those pushes, of those cycles, as Schumpeter talks about it. And an example therefore is the iPod. I mean, on an iPod, you stored music as an MP3 file. And the file class of MP3 existed years before, long time before. But no one used it because it was quite complicated to bring a device where you can reach and use those MP3 files. So it needed another wave of innovation, another way of thinking about the same situation, and that was when Apple invented the iPod. And suddenly I had a device where I could store my hundreds of MP3 files and could put it in my pocket. And easily it was available on the run, on the go. And if you compare that to how I started to listen to music with a Walkman that had a cassette where on each side, you cannot even imagine, so you were too young. On each side you could store like 10 songs maybe, and then you could switch the cassette and listen to side B to the next 10 songs, and then suddenly you had something so small that fitted into your jeans pockets, and you could have with you hundreds of songs all the time wherever. It was revolutionary. But don't forget, the file itself, the how we stored it, that was available since a long time, but it needed a second push to make it available for the mass and to be a successful product, let's put it like that.
Another important theory of Alois Schumpeter is the gale of creative destruction. The gale of creative destruction describes the process of industrial mutation that continuously revolutionizes the economic structure from within, incessantly destroying the old one, incessantly creating a new one. That means that there is something existing, still existing, and you have to destroy, but it's not like through something to this old product, for example, and get destroyed. It's something to, it's like thinking the old one in a completely new way. Because when you get up with the old one and you rethink the old one, this is the first step of thinking something new, of creating something new. So he called this theory the gale of creative destruction.
And an example, therefore, would be the typewriter. And as Susie described, I mean, it doesn't mean you should take a big hammer and destroy the typewriter now to create something new. It is just a way of thinking the typewriter new. What could that product do if we could make a wish? What more do we want out of that product? And that's how everything developed. And we came from the mechanical typewriter to an electronical typewriter, so where you had less effort typing. And that led us to the computer. Still, we used the keyboard. We didn't invent the keyboard new. Still, it's set up like it's on the typewriter. But we can use it in a much broader perspective, and of course the computer today can do much more things than just type text.
So Josef Alois Schumpeter said that entrepreneurship is not only the intervention of something completely new, it's always to set up at an existing thing and imitate this to further develop this. It could be a product, a service, or a process, it doesn't matter. It's only about getting in this entrepreneurial thinking still existing things in a new way, and then further develop something.
An example, therefore, is probably what you might have used already today, an online shop. Still, we have physical shops where you can go buy your groceries, or where you can go buy your clothes or shoes or whatever. And on the other side, a lot of those physical shops offer you now the possibility to order and shop goods online. And it was not only the pandemic that forced that development, but the circumstances since 2020 gave a certain drive to the development, and also long existing companies that were really traditional retailers and physical shops had to think their entrepreneur concepts new and had to say, okay, we need to, in order to survive, we need to rethink our structures, and we need to rethink how we enable the customer to shop. And so we have two systems coexisting. I have the physical shop, but I also have the online shop, serving probably in the future different kind of customers.
Maybe you're now a little bit confused. We talked about a lot of possibilities, how to get to entrepreneurial thinking and how entrepreneurship goes on. And now we have, in our opinion, one useful definition of entrepreneurship for you. Entrepreneurship is when you act upon opportunities and ideas and transform them into value for others. And the value that is created can be financial, cultural, or social. And you think about, maybe you are wondering why you need one definition of entrepreneurship. There is no reason. There is only the reason you should come up with some ideas when we talk about entrepreneurship, because now we get in the process of entrepreneurial thinking. And now let's take the first 3 steps by using the 3 I's of the entrepreneurial process. The 3 I's are the inspiration. So maybe you get inspired of something you saw before, or you think about something,
something that maybe annoys you,
Yeah.
something that could be better. And I don't know, I am annoyed this morning. It took me really long to come here up to Graz because it was so many red lights and I seem to be just super unlucky with my car. And wouldn't it be nice if they would like better react on if there is a car waiting on the cross junction and then just flip to green? Maybe that's just my wish. But anyway, that inspired me.
And this is an idea of Nina. So you have to, when you get inspired, you have to create an idea, and this idea have to be implemented. Because entrepreneurial thinking doesn't mean only an inspiration and ideation. You also have to put your ideation in the real world, in the daily life. So you have to implement it, and then the whole entrepreneurial process is completed and you are really going into the right direction of entrepreneurial thinking.
And that's the point. As long as I just complain that the traffic light was red and I lost time, and even if I have an idea how that could change, but if I don't go the 3rd step and think about the implementation, I mean, of course, this doesn't go within seconds, that's a process, but we will show you how you can do that. But that is crucial. You need to take also that 3rd step. So are you ready to start, or have you overseen something? Or maybe you're just overwhelmed by the enormity of possibilities to be an entrepreneur. Or on the other hand, maybe you're afraid of failure or risks, that risks are too high that you should take. We want to show you in the next chapter how you can work smart, how you can think through certain things, get self-reflective, get an outside view on your entrepreneurial personality. And we want to give you some examples of people that failed actually, big time, sometimes even, and then came back on track, because what they never lost was their spirit, the entrepreneurial mindset. So there can be different motives that motivate people to become an entrepreneur. It can be within your family tradition, and maybe your family is running a successful business since generations, and now you should take over. But that doesn't mean that you have to think the complete company system, the procedures, the products, everything in the same way they did since generations. It's really often that we see young people coming out of university, coming out of their educational career, having collected experience all over the world in different places, coming back to their home base and influencing the complete procedures, the products, the processes with their experience and new knowledge. So we can still be an entrepreneur in the sense of develop something further, even if it's there since generations. Of course, what is nice is that your social environment, in the sense of your family, will probably support you because they know how it feels. On the other hand, a lot of people have the motive, and maybe it's also you, that they want to change the world to a better place, that they want to influence society to grow, not in the sense of wealth or numbers, but in the sense of grow their horizon and see a bigger picture of the world. Many of us have also the motivation to earn money, and maybe earn more money than in an 8 to 5 job, to be employed somewhere or whatever. Of course, that's also motivation, and that is right, and it's okay to have that, because every motive is okay as long as it gets you started. It can also be personal fulfillment, that this satisfies you what you are doing, and maybe you're not earning that much money with it, but you're just feeling fine after coming home after a day because you have the feeling, I made something, I brought a change, I could do something with my time. For a lot of people, being an entrepreneur also means prestige, that they want to have a good image in society. Or it can be that there's just no job that is right for you. So you create your own. And you see there's so much more opportunities and possibilities, and there are 3 more dots, and we would like you to fill out more or less those 3 more dots now. So please write us note down in the field that will pop up now, what is your motivation? So thank you for sharing your motivation with us, and maybe you stand now exactly in front of those two choices. Yes, I want to be an entrepreneur. Yes, I want to be an entrepreneur, but...
And these two perspectives are called in the theory the positive and the negative valence. The positive valence could be that you feel something like pressure when you're coming up with new ideas, or you're thinking something in another way, or when you discuss a problem, a daily life problem with your colleagues, for example. You get passionate for a new thing, for a quite new service, for example. And it also could be that you're curious in new technology. You want to use new technology to make a process more efficient, or to use it in your daily working life and to make a working process more efficient. So you get euphoric. Like I am here in the webinar of entrepreneurship, I'm really euphoric to teach you something about entrepreneurship. It could also be this euphoria when you think about a new product, service, or a process, and you get enthusiasm. Do you have trust in society, or do you want to make something better? Do you want to work together with other people, persons, to develop our economy and also our society further? This also could make you bright or relief. On the other hand, there is the negative valence. So I really understand if there are some doubts when you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, or some concerns. Maybe you feel you have a high fear of failure rate, like we mentioned before in the GEM dataset, or maybe you are afraid that nobody will buy your new product, or nobody will hop on your new idea. So if there is a high fear, I can understand. It could also be that you feel ashamed when nobody buys your product, like I mentioned before.
Or maybe no one understands your idea when you share that, because you're so far beyond with your thinking that people cannot immediately follow. And maybe they look at you or laugh maybe even about you. And you're so afraid of that status, because all of those things, it's not that they took place and you're already in them. It's just what you imagine. It is this preventive concern, or these doubts that come way before something ever happened, but they hold you back from being an entrepreneur.
Because this could lead to hopelessness. And one really important term when we talk about entrepreneurship is risk. There are people who are really risk averse and they don't want to take and to manage the risk. But what is it about? It's always about thinking about risks. It's really good, and you can use it because then your idea gets stronger, maybe, because when you know which risks are existing, you can manage this, for example, and you can deal with this. So what you can see here, and what the point is here, is that you also can learn from the negative valences. You also can learn from doubts, concerns, and it could motivate you to come over this step and to deal with this negative valence, to go through the entrepreneurial process.
Exactly, and to see it like a challenge. Because we can say your best teacher is your last mistake. Mm-hmm. And an entrepreneurial mindset is not necessarily connected with a successful idea in the first try. An entrepreneurial mindset is then successful if you continue thinking in this way. And even if one product or one service or one procedure didn't work out as you thought, you still work on, you reflect on yourself, what can I do better? How can I reach more customers? And so on and so forth. And this will lead you in the end to be a successful entrepreneur, like this one.
I'm sure that everybody of you know Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. He is one of the most famous people today in the world. But he also experienced some failures. He came up with new ideas, from the solar cookers to hovercrafts, or to search engine called A9, and to online auctions. And this idea don't find customers, let's say.
They didn't
But
take off.
They didn't take off. But his entrepreneurial thinking still exists because he ever go on. He never give up and he tries to come up with new ideas. He tries to think something still existing in a new way. And then Amazon was founded. And now he's one of the famous persons in the world.
Another example is this lady, Vera Wang. She started as an ice skater, so she did figure skating in competitions, you know, with these nice, beautiful costumes. They're like ballerinas on ice. And this was her dream, her passion, and that was also her goal in life, to be successful as a sportswoman. Unfortunately, for a lot of circumstances, it didn't turn out to be like that. So she had to change direction. She had to reorientate. But what never changed was her inspiration, the motivation, and her entrepreneurial mindset. So from being a figure skater, she went in a complete other field, the field of fashion. She started to be a designer at Vogue. She started to design for Ralph Lauren. And when she finally should get married herself, so when she was, I guess, in a nice moment of her personal life story, there was just not the right wedding dress for her available. So it was a situation where she didn't find what she needed. So the next logical step for her was to create what she needs. So to come up with something not brand new. Wedding dresses existed before and designers for it as well. But her way of doing it, of interpreting it, was a new one. And she designed her wedding dress, and after that, thousands of more wedding dresses for the most famous people in Hollywood that are wearing her dresses now on their special days. And she's super successful as a wedding dress designer, running her own business.
And what about Bill Gates? Bill Gates is the founder of Microsoft. You all know Microsoft today. But he starts his entrepreneurial process in an earlier stage. He was at the high school and worked at the American Association, which collect and reports and analyze data of the traffic. So they want to optimize the traffic and avoid traffic jams. And their microprocessors had a big role. And Bill Gates always believed in these microprocessors, and that was the reason why he founded the TREF-O Data 8008 some years later. But then the federal state came up with the exactly same idea, and this microprocessor was for free. So Bill Gates' idea was gone. It was dead, I can say.
We can say like that. He had no one that would buy it because it was there for free.
So, but also Bill Gates never give up. He always think about, I want to put these microprocessors in a useful way for all customers. Where can I put these products?
How can I use that in another setup?
Yeah. And this was the reason of the foundation of Microsoft. And now let's have a look at this great smile. He is smiling around the world because he is the founder of Microsoft.
And maybe you're working right now with Microsoft as we do, for example. So it's really something that took over a dimension that was for sure even hard to imagine for him at that point. But it's all about falling 7 times and standing up 8. It's about that never giving up, but don't make the same mistake again either. So it's about developing, rethinking, and maybe you think now, great, Susie and Nina, you give us the most famous people in the world as an example, and there we should orientate, but I am not Vera Wang, or I am not Bill Gates. Now, of course, we are not. We are us. And that's really good, that every one of us is an individual, and it's important that you are authentic, because every one of us sees the world in a different way, and therefore sees different opportunities of being an entrepreneur, and can be inspired and motivated in different ways. And that's exactly what we want to show you in some video clips now, because Susie interviewed some of her colleagues and friends.
Let's have a look at these videos of my colleagues and friends. They are at the early stage of the entrepreneurial process. They found their startups, let's say 1 year ago, and they will They will talk about their doubts at the beginning. They will also talk about their experiences, and they will give you hopefully a feeling that everybody of us can found an enterprise and can go into this entrepreneurial thinking.
Exactly, it's just to start. So let's start the clips.
Hi, my name is Ines. I'm from the Austrian startup Flasher. We develop a safety wearable for cyclists and e-scooter riders that consists of 2 smart armbands that you simply snap onto your upper arms before you get onto your bike or your e-scooter. The armbands then function as gesture-controlled turn signals and as an automatic brake light to make you more visible and therefore safer in urban traffic. I co-founded Flasher because my co-founder and I actually tried out e-scooters, and we noticed that giving a hand signal, signaling the turning direction, was virtually impossible. And as a cyclist or an e-scooter riders, there are often scenarios where you don't really feel like you're seen or safe on the street. And that was something we wanted to change. We wanted to make cyclists and e-scooter riders feel more visible and therefore safer in urban traffic. My biggest doubt before the foundation was whether what I had learned at university would be enough to actually set up a business and bring a product to the market. For me, the biggest benefits are that I can decide by myself, or at least with my team, what it is that I want to do, and that I learn new things every single day. The learning curve is really amazing. And what makes even more of a difference is that now I feel like I can make an impact with our startup, with our product, with Flasher. It sounds really cheesy, but one of the key lessons that I have learned is just to never give up. Half of being an entrepreneur is just not giving up. When things are difficult, you try again, you gather your team around, you gather up your resources, and then you just try again.
So we're having a social media ad agency. We're helping companies to sell their ideas, products, or services with social media. So we're helping with strategies. We are doing the advertisement. We are doing the creatives, like the pictures and the descriptions of advertisements. And yeah, that's actually pretty simply explained what we're doing. I started my business because I always wanted to create something by myself and to be able to do something which I can kind of control. So yeah, I was passionate for years now and I always tried new things. I tried new business models. And in the end, one, of course, was, thanks God, working. So yeah, I just loved doing it. Usually I'm not the person who has doubts. I'm rather the person who is just doing it and seeing what comes next. That's sometimes good, sometimes not so. But I think some doubts were, can I live from it? Can I earn enough money to survive, kind of? And will it work? So I was always thinking about these kind of things. But in the end, I think you just need a vision and go for it. And you have to see the doubts, but don't let you or yourself overrule from it. I think the biggest benefits are that you're in control of yourself and thus of your life. You can do anything you want, so you can do like whatever you think is good, and you can make your life like you want to. So I can work from anywhere actually in my kind of job. So I can do work and travel, I can work from a cafe, or I can work from the office or from home. So I think these are very, very good benefits if you are self-employed. I think the one key lesson is don't let yourself distract from anybody else, because people will tell you that you're not going to make it. People will tell you it's going to be so hard and so difficult. And of course, yes, it will be, but that's kind of part of the process. So just keep on doing it, keep on trying, and if you fail, don't stop.
So to understand why we founded our company, it's necessary to have a couple of look into the past. And so Denise and I were actually volunteers in the field of migration for a long time. We ourselves got to know each other during our master's studies, especially during the school internship. And during that time, we quickly realized that we wanted to make a difference in the field of migration. And so we were thinking about, okay, so what is there that we can actually do to make a difference? We found that there are a lot of German and value courses, which are all important and very much necessary, and we are very happy that they exist to the extent they do. But we felt that we wanted to basically support something that wasn't on the market. And so we saw that, okay, there are a lot of mental challenges, everyday challenges that these people or our target group, so people with migration background, face each and every day, but no one really looks into. And we said, okay, with our offer, we want to move away from more of a deficit orientation towards more encouragement and motivation. And we wanted to celebrate progress and have a look and say, you know, this is all that you have achieved until now. Have a look at that. This is actually amazing what you did and what you have accomplished during sometimes even very short periods of time. And so we wanted to emphasize success, but we also wanted to give some room and space for them to open up and say, you know what, this is what I'm dealing with, and it's actually hard on me. We also have witnessed that ourselves, because we have friends with refugee and migration backgrounds, and we saw and we witnessed and kind of lived through that as well to some extent, and we saw their stories and their hardships, and we were kind of also pretty much motivated by their strength and positivity, and that's when we said, you know what, we're going to take this step and found Migrabiles. Yes.
Yes, as we run a social business, our customers, the people with migration backgrounds, are not the ones who can pay for our offer. And because of this, it was challenging to create a business model to find suitable ways of financing. Both of us are used to think in traditional business mindsets, particularly because of our education, but the area we operate in is very specific, so there was a doubt of having a lack of knowledge in this area. And furthermore, both of us had to make the decision to work less than full time, to have enough time resources for our hard project. And without the certainty that our business would generate profits, this was not an easy decision. And we had to learn, and we have to learn, to find a balance between employment and having enough time for our heart project.
So I would say the biggest advantage, and this might sound very cliche, but it's really true, is that you can pursue your passion. So you identify completely with the company, the vision, and at the same time you realize the impact you have. You're also able to draw new strengths from what you are doing, from your own activity, and from what you get back from your target group and the people you work with. And of course, while there are many certainly unpredictable unknowns about the nature of entrepreneurship, and the beauty I find, and also the irony at the same time, is that you actually have a lot of control. So this is your business, so you get to make the key decisions. You get to say who's your clients and what your products or your services are. You also choose your partnerships and what your goals are. So you're very free in that, and you can be very creative. So I feel like there's a lot of freedom in being able to set the tone and specifics around your work. And rather than just being, in a hierarchical structure, you're your own boss, and you get to also work whichever way you like, which is, I think, very rewarding. And to put it in the words of Migrabilis in our metaphor, it's incredibly rewarding to see the seeds that you planted blossom into something. And maybe to stress one last thing, at the end of the day, it's important to take pride in your work and to feel good about what you do, because this is essentially what will keep you going. And feeling accomplished by seeing something that you have built come together, it's just an incredible feeling that no words can actually describe. So yeah, being an entrepreneur basically means, or for us means, that you're a problem solver also by nature, and the satisfaction of seeing your honest hard work solve these problems is a very unique experience.
Yes, at the beginning there's a lot of uncertainty, of course, and through networking you can meet successful people with many years of experience and knowledge, and maybe they give you a lot of well-intentioned tips. What we have learned so far is that it is important to develop a feeling for which tips make sense for your business, and in which cases it's better to stick to your own path, because it's important to stay authentic all the time. And maybe sometimes you even have to say no to certain opportunities, as we did, because in the beginning, beside our mentor training workshops, we also had offer for basic economic education, and there was demand for it. But we realized that we don't feel it as a core part of our business. We are much more passionate and motivated about mental health topics. So despite the expected growth opportunities, we decided to only focus on what we really love to do. And for us, it was the right decision.
So let's have a look on our model that we have fixed for you and decided for you, because we think it's really most useful. The EntreComp will give you like a checklist for your entrepreneurial mindset. So you can see, do I have all the resources I need? Where do I have to think a bit more? Where do I have maybe to get support from outside before I really get started with what I want to do? So this is what the EntreComp looks like. It was developed out of another European Union project, so really closely connected also with the SPINTeams. And it's divided in 3 areas. It's the blue one where you will start. It's the ideas, of course, that we need and the opportunities we see for being an entrepreneur, and goes over into resources, that are necessary to, in the end, set our idea into action. The first part, the blue one, is something we have already covered so far. If you remember, we talked about these spotting opportunities, thinking out of the box, getting creative with what we observe and how we can do that better. It was about creating a vision, getting started, begin, feel this motivation. It was about valuing ideas, saying, okay, there is something that is already existing, but I can do it in a much better way, thinking things new, like the typewriter, for example, and then also going over into the first 3 steps, from getting inspired to over the ideation until the implementation phase. And this is exactly where you will come to that cross junction, or this bias of saying, yes, I really want to do that, and yes, I really want to do that, but I still have doubts. And exactly at that point, it will be those Entrecomp questions, and it is this model that can help you to overcome that and go really into the direction of being fully motivated and checking your resources.
And the other 2 parts in this Entrecomp framework are the orange one and the green one, the resources and the into action. When we talk about the resources, it's about, we talk about your resources, but also about resources you may need or you may collect from your colleagues, from some experts or your mentors. So what about this part of the Entrecomp is? There is the self-awareness. So believe in yourself, try to take this step further and to implement your ideation. Reflect on your needs, aspirations, and so on. The motivation and perseverance. So please stay motivated. If you make a negative experience, for example, try to come up with a report, reflect on this experience, and go on. Believe in yourself, I already mentioned. So stay focused and don't give up. Another important point is mobilizing resources. So when you think about your strengths or you think about your weaknesses, you should be clear what you need, which resources you really need from others, and which resources you have, which resources you can bring up to go into the entrepreneurial process.
Because it's really that sometimes you have a great idea, you have maybe the handy skills to do that, but you don't have any knowledge about controlling, financing, or tax, or law issues, and so on. And we are like, oh, we can never be an entrepreneur because we don't know about all this economical part of it. But that's not true, because there are a lot of others that are experts in that field, but they are not that handy to design a product or come up with something you need to really produce. So why not merge with those?
Mm-hmm. But trust me, after these webinars, you will have, let's say, one level of knowledge about these aspects Nina mentioned. So what is also really important is the financial and economic literacy. That means that you have an overview about the financial market, about the economic, what is going on the market, and so on, how our society and economic is further developed. This is one part which is really important, and you should try to focus on this. You should try to further develop your financial and economic literacy. And the last point in this sector is mobilizing others. That means that it is important to connect to each other, to try to ask experts, to try to ask current entrepreneurs, how do you come up with your idea, or how do you write a business plan, and so on. For example, you have a business plan and you want to discuss it. It is really important to discuss it with your colleagues, with your friends, with your mentors, with our entrepreneurship coaches, for example. So please mobilize others, because you know what are your resources and which resources you need. So work smart, not hard, is here the point.
Sometimes it's hard to get this picture about yourself and to be really objectively reflective. And you have collected some platforms where they can get help, right?
When you need an overview of your resources you have, you can bring up. You can choose a self-assessment at the internet, for example. We brought out, we have some web pages for you prepared. For example, Coral. Coral is also a project of the European Union linked to the Erasmus+ program, and there you can check your resources, there you can check if your entrepreneurial thinking is going on, for example. Another webpage would be the BDC. You can see it's an entrepreneurial potential self-assessment, so they will give you a report on at which state you are at the moment and what you need to further develop yourself. And for our Austrian colleagues here, or for the German-speaking colleagues here, we have one webpage from our WKO,
the Austrian Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, where you also can see which resources are needed, and maybe you can reflect on yourself what is important when you go through this entrepreneurial process. But it's also important that you know it doesn't depend on the report, on the result which is coming from these web pages. It's only you. You should be motivated, you stay focused and motivated to go through the entrepreneurial process, to start up and found your enterprise.
Because of course it can be that we lack some qualities when we do that self-assessment, but it doesn't mean we are not able to be an entrepreneur. It just shows us here we have to do some more research or develop further or learn more about that or get someone that knows it.
And when you have some doubts about your resources, it could be helpful to go on our webpage Rebelbase. I'm sure that you know this webpage. There you can find colleagues, there you can find experts, there you can find entrepreneurs and also our entrepreneurship coaches who can discuss your idea or who can discuss your business plan, your financial status at the moment. So it's really important for you to connect to everybody you can connect to. So use this possibility and try to talk about your ideas, your entrepreneurial processes and where you are in this process.
Exactly, to develop everything further.
The last part of our beautiful flower here is the green part. The green part is linked to into action. So now we get into action. We try to take the initiative to take our idea and implement it, like we mentioned at the entrepreneurial process before. What is important here is that you plan, that you set up and plan for going through this process, for doing the business plan, for doing your financial reports and so on. It's also about the management, how you can manage your steps through this entrepreneurial process. In the process, you often will be confronted.
You will get lessons learned. Let's put it like that.
Yes.
There will be some failure, or there will be things that turn out differently that you have planned.
And then it's important to talk about this or to reflect on this, because of every negative experience you can learn. It's always about learning all the time, learning through experience. And this learning could also be better if you connect to each other, like I mentioned before. Working with others is really important when you want to become an entrepreneur or when you want to become or to further develop something new. So go up and never stop, because the best plan does not help without going into action.
Exactly. And it's really everyday life problems that can inspire you. And often it's a really simple idea for solving those that leads to great entrepreneurial success. And to prove that and to get you going now, we have two examples for you. It's those everyday problems that occurred to us and that we thought maybe you have a solution for it. And the first problem is imagine next weekend you invite your friends over, you should have a movie evening, and of course you will buy some chips or something like that. So let's try to find a solution for exactly this problem. And that's when you open the package of chips and suddenly the content is all over. So the chips are all over the place, maybe down on the floor and on the carpet. It's more or less explodes. Why is it like that? Why can't it be different? What would be better? What could be a development of the chips package or whatever? So we will guide you through this with several questions. So what is annoying to you? That will be the first thing we will ask you. And you will fill in your idea, whatever you might think. We will also ask you, what could you do better? And you will again fill in what you think about that, which will lead you to 2 more questions. And then we come to a second example where you maybe need already a bit more creativity. So let's get started. So thank you for sharing your ideas about the chips package with us. There is another problem. Of course, for your movie night, you will need something to drink when you have eaten all the chips that didn't fall on the floor anymore, because you had a great idea now that you could maybe set already into action and implement as an entrepreneur. But maybe you need also some water. And you know how annoying it is to lift those heavy buckets of water in an apartment to your friend. And maybe when you live in a town like Graz, where most people don't have cars because there is a lack of parking, and we like to use bicycles or public transportation, but it's not that easy to pack 2 of those on the bike or get them in the bus. It's really heavy to carry. Why did no one come up with something better? What's your solution? What's your idea? I hope we got you inspired. So now it's again about you. Fill in. What's your idea? Leading you through the first steps of entrepreneurial thinking and getting your mindset right was a pleasure for us. And we really enjoyed that webinar and look forward to see you perform and hopefully get the first new entrepreneurs out of our webinar. But as we said today, you need a lot more of resources and knowledge, and therefore there will be further webinars.
The next webinar will go online at December, and we hope we're seeing all of you at this webinar again.
So stay motivated, be inspired, and get your ideas implemented. All the best from Graz. Bye!
Bye!